Immortality is the dream of many mortal people regardless of race, origin, gender, or anything else. Although people staged a rebellion, the rebellion against the natural order brought upon themselves heavenly punishment, which came in the form of purple lightning, capable of wiping out all life from the face of the earth. This is also the final obstacle to achieving immortality. But this story tells how the main character of this story survived 999 misfortunes that happened to him. In Nano County, belonging to Ganson, the main character lived in the Taung clan, and he had a bird in a cage and a sister with whom he talked regularly. At one point, he wanted to tell his sister about such a thing as a lightsaber. The older brother told her a lot of interesting things, but even if he told her something about it before, she said that she didn't remember anything like that. And then he began his speech, that this is a kind of thing that is capable of directing lightning into the ground in order to avoid it from entering the house while looking at the cage with the bird. He said the metal cage was suitable for use as a lightning. Rod, the sister, responded by asking if he wanted to eat, to which he replied that he was not hungry and that he never wanted to eat the bird, since it was a gift from the master. But Sister Qingming still felt sad because, in her opinion, her brother was suffering from hunger, also realizing that the last piece of food was unfortunately eaten yesterday. Our main character may have been the most boring guy in history, since he was originally just a programmer at a gaming company. And once again, he fell asleep at his desk while working overtime. But unexpectedly for himself upon awakening, he discovered that he was in a completely different world, unfamiliar to him, in the arms of the head of the Ta Chong clan. He thought that by coming to this new world for him, he would be able to get rid of his status as a loser. He thought that he should build the foundation and golden core level, upreach the top, and become the leader in the world of immortality. But he could not get rid of his mortal body, and this he considered a problem ever since he was a child. His master fed him 5 types of insects in an attempt to aid his cultivation. Another problem was that, in his opinion, he was forever stuck at the stage of processing points, the required number of which he could not score. But today, this is not the worst thing, because now he doesn't even have the strength to just get up. Hearing this, his sister suggested that he go down to the mountains with the hope that along the way someone would meet them and offer them some food. She even told him that he didn't have to go with her because she could do it alone. She was about to leave, but suddenly her brother became indignant and decided that he was not so weak and that he could still find the strength in himself to get up, go and catch some game for them in the mountain forest. He said that now there was no time for laziness and resolutely began to walk. The surprised sister asked him how it happened. That just recently her older brother's stomach was gurgling so much that he couldn't even get up, and now he decided to go hunting. He called his sister with him, and they went along the way. He talked about how big the forest was and whether they could find a wild rabbit in this forest. He also did not forget to mention that he used to be a programmer. The sister asked what it was and whether they could eat it, to which he answered in the negative. He never could have imagined that his experience as a programmer would be needed in this world, because his view of the world is no different from the point of view of game players in the real world. After all the basic information is presented in front of him, and animals are of course no exception. And then he saw a hidden rabbit and decided to quietly and unnoticeably approach it as close as possible so that the rabbit did not have a chance to escape. But his plan was not destined to be realized this time. The fact is that not far from our main character and his sister, several other brothers were walking and talking very loudly. One shouted to the other so loudly that he was a student of the 5 swords of Lushan, that absolutely everyone who was nearby was scared and ran away, including the rabbit that also ran away from the main character of this story, which he clearly did not like. He and his sister ran after the rabbit, But the rabbit managed to escape into a fenced area, which left them no choice, and they had to look for a new victim since they were strictly forbidden to go beyond the border. The sister again offered to go down and look for food there, but the brother did not want this and said that he had come up with another way, calling his sister to go with him. As soon as they approached those two brothers, who scared every living thing around them, the brother told his sister that he planned to come up to them, take the dick from the bag, and tell them that this was just compensation for the lost roasted rabbit. But not daring to do this, they decided to watch these screaming brothers, and they in turn came to their house and began to wonder who could put so many protective talismans on it. They didn't expect to see something like this. They did not understand that all these talismans were so carefully protected, and even thought about the demon hiding there. At some point, the idea came to them to simply leave there, leaving a letter. But they could not do that, and one reminded the other that they had promised to deliver the letter personally to the head, and that they could also ask for a few elixirs. After that, Junior's big brother praised that he had correctly reminded that 5-element sword disciples are required to carry out tasks effectively and report back upon their return. He also said that he was glad that the younger one had such insight. But nevertheless, upon seeing our main character, they quickly began to run away, forgetting absolutely about everything. No one there remembered the important efficiency of completing tasks, and the fact that they were students of the sword of the 5 elements. There was only fear, but our main character tried to stop them, and he succeeded. He said that he was a disciple of the Tachong sect, and that his name was Zhen Jinming. After this, he inquired about the purpose of his visit to their sect. The brothers stopped and were happy to see a living person, and they ran away because of the erroneous thoughts that all the people of the Taitong sect were dead. After that, they normally approached Zen and his sister, who also came out to meet them and introduced themselves, who they were, and for what purpose they had arrived. They set about their master's order to deliver one important letter which fell at that moment. The older brother scolded the younger brother for releasing the letter onto the ground, picked him up, and apologized, explaining what happened by saying that they were in a great hurry, after which they decided to find out if the sect leader was nearby, because the letter needed to be handed to him personally. To which Zen replied that the master had gone into closed cultivation and should not be disturbed under any circumstances at the moment. Hearing this, the brothers quickly handed Zen a letter with instructions to give it to him as soon as he was freed, and immediately began to run away, rejoicing that the letter had been delivered. The sister drew Jen's attention to the fact that they were running away. But Jen was not particularly worried and told them after them that since they had come such a long way, the Taong sect should express their gratitude with several elixirs. The sister was surprised and asked how he knew that they needed elixir. They said that there was no need to worry about them so much. They were just following orders, to which Jen told them that they in turn should not be so polite. But since the head of their sect and his master are friends, there is nothing wrong with that. Zen gave them elixirs, which in his sect are dine pills, and asked them to take them. And although they pretended that they did not want to accept such a generous gift, he knew all their thoughts, what they were thinking at one time or another. The fact is that he seems to look with his eyes, but he sees everything as if through a screen while playing a game. When any thought arises in a person or animal, he sees it in the form of a pop-up notification. In the end, they still accepted the elixirs and thanked them for them. They said upon acceptance that since he insisted so much, it would be impolite on their part to refuse the elixirs. But in their thoughts, they were very happy and did not understand what was happening. Zen also added that this elixir is not simple, and that it is purified with the help of a cat demon and produced within 49 days, and that it needs special storage conditions because it melts in the light, disappears from water, and dissipates in the wind. He said to remember this and not open it right away. They clarified when it would be possible to open it, to which Jen replied that he himself did not know, and that they would understand when the right time came for this, and after that, he went into the house. One of them, no matter what, tried to open the elixir immediately with thoughts of getting rich quickly, but the other stopped him and reminded him of Zen's words, which said that when you try to open it, everything can disappear. They walked for a long time, on the way back to their sect. All this time, the elder brother was carrying the elixir, and the younger brother asked all the way for help to carry it further. But the elder brother, understanding the seriousness of the situation, did not trust this burden to the younger. At some point, the younger brother became so persistent that he decided to take the elixir from his older brother by force. The younger one supposedly really wanted to help the older one convey it, and the older one tried with all his might not to burden the younger one. And in the end, as expected, all this did not lead to anything good. The bag tore and the contents fell out, but they suddenly found a piece of something there that, according to the description, did not look like a pill that should disappear. And the older brother decided to try to figure it out because he thought that it was very similar to a stone, and he was left without the teeth with which he tried to bite through, and he became convinced that it was still a stone, and he became very angry with Zen for this. And the younger brother noticed the disappearance of the dry ration, and the older brother thought that it was not for nothing that the mountain and the clan gates where they came looked so strange and suspicious from the outside, and he thought that everyone in that clan was a swindler, and he decided that the packed rations could be forgiven. But the letter turned out to be more important, so he also decided that he needed to return and demand an explanation of what was happening, and he and his younger brother went back to Zen, and Zen had already printed out and read the letter. The sister asked him what was wrong there, to which Zen told her that there was nothing else there except greetings. But suddenly, someone knocked on their gate, and the sister went to find out who had come to them, but it turned out that the guests were the same two brothers who had recently brought a letter and allegedly received an elixir, the eldest of them, namely Yanf, from the Five Swords clan, demanded an audience. The younger one asked him if it was necessary to be so rude now in the current situation with the misunderstanding that had occurred, to which the elder said that everything is in order, and he knows what and how to do correctly at one time or another. The sister opened the gate for them, and the elder brother told her after that he apologized for the unexpected visit, and that they remembered that the master had ordered a very important message to be conveyed to the leader of their clan. And he also clarified that they must tell this personally to the head of the Chong, and that this cannot be conveyed through anyone, because they cannot disclose information to third parties. Then Jen came out, after which he saw many negative thoughts. After thinking a little more, he told them in response that he had already mentioned that the master was in a closed training session and that he had some difficulties, so it was not very convenient for him to receive guests, and that he could convey everything important on a piece of paper. The eldest evil, toothless brother-mother decided to ask what kind of training strategy their master practices, to which Zen replied that the practice is called "You can't be distracted by anything." After these words, the elder brother burst in without any further words, pushing everyone away, and began to look for the clan master. His younger brother followed him. They walked for a long time through various rooms and buildings, and in the end, they seemed to have found the room they needed before entering. They knocked and apologized for their impudence, but when they entered and looked around, they saw no one there except 2 burning candles. Then they approached the table and saw an unburnt sheet of paper. Having picked up this sheet of paper, they saw that these were the remnants of the very letter that they were instructed to hand over to the master personally from hand to hand, without intermediaries. After this, the elder brother became very angry and decided to teach Jen and Qinming a lesson otherwise. If he doesn't do this, then in his opinion, the Five Swords clan will become a laughing star talk in the end. At that moment, Zen and Qinming approached their elder brother, and Zen said that it would not be worth getting so angry and reacting like that because of some few cakes he was against making a mountain out of a mountain. To which the elder brother showed the rest of the letter and, accusing Zen of pretending to be a fool, asked that Jen was really a disciple of the Tycoon sect. Then why did he decide to burn the letter? Unfortunately, Zen had nothing to answer to this. The brothers began to destroy everything in their path and were going to kill what they thought were impostors. They destroyed talismans, even though this was prohibited. Qinming even tried to resolve the situation by asking how they could compensate, to which the elder brother from the Five Swords clan told her that in a few days their sect would hold a special meeting dedicated to the treasures, and that he came here to deliver an invitation letter. But since the letter is now destroyed without a written reply letter, now the members of the Ta Chong sect cannot believe that the invitation was not false and will be considered that they were not invited to their big meeting, which is not acceptable. Chining asked Jen if there was really nothing important in the letter. After all, he told her exactly that, and she believed him without double-checking whether it was true. She trusted him completely without any doubt. To which Zen replied that they could not leave this place because lightning could kill them. But Qinming corrected him and said that it was only he who could not leave on his own, but it was not about them together. And after that, Qinming told the brothers that she was the daughter of the head of the Tang sect, and that their master and her father should be old friends, and if they did not believe her, then she could go with them to the Five Sword sect to prove it. She also added that if their master did not believe her words, then she would be completely at their disposal. She decided to do this despite the fact that Jen tried in every possible way to verbally stop her and force her not to do this. The eldest of the brothers thought a little and decided that this was a very good idea, and he agreed to it. And in the end, Qinming went with her brothers to the Five Swords clan, keeping her word. Zen tried to stop her, but he could not do anything about it. He understood that something could happen if she even went alone, but nothing depended on him. He had already done everything he could, and it had clearly already turned against him. It is not known for certain how many people dream of becoming immortal and setting foot on the path of cultivation, but if you go against the will of heaven, you can receive its punishment. Purple lightning can destroy everything to the ground, and people usually call it the heavenly test. She is capable of destroying everything and killing all living beings. The fact is that the clan was under a dome, and protective spells on pieces of paper posted everywhere kept the protection of this dome, but as soon as Qinming left, the dome began to weaken significantly. Qinming saw this and realized that she had made a mistake by going outside the dome. She returned with her brothers back, but it was already quite late. The heavenly disaster has already begun. It turned out that these lightning were caused by the gods. One of them ate a lot of 5-element beetles, and at the chai quenching stage, he discovered that he could easily cause a celestial disaster. Seeing the result, he realized that there might not have been any casualties if he had not caused lightning. It turned out to be out of his control. Another god sitting at the table answered him that he had not met anyone who could accumulate more than 8 million chai. Even though he has been cultivating for so many years, he still cannot cross the chai quenching stage. Not many people can do this, and not right away. Therefore, it is not surprising that he was able to summon lightning. He further told him that if he wanted to protect her, then he needed to face difficulties without fear or fear. As it turned out later, the Master and Jen were gods. After something similar happened, one day after that incident, the Master covered everything with new talismans wherever possible, and said that the level of security in that place was the highest. And he told everyone about the border of the protective dome beyond, which he once did not dare to follow the rabbit Jen. And the Master then gave Qin-Ming a bird in a cage which was supposed to play with Qin-Ming when she was lonely after the Master left. And the Master then went outside the dome to the beetle traders that Jen needed. He hoped that this way he could get rid of his problem completely. And he gave instructions to Jen to train and live with Qin-Ming and keep a secret from everyone that he was not there. He thought that in this case, no one should bother them. And then Zen promised that he would protect his sister so that she would never suffer from anything. The Master urgently asked not to leave their territory until his return. And this time, when she returned, Jen was already lying under the rubble he said to leave, as it was a heavenly disaster. But suddenly, Qin-Ming said that she had already seen 998 of them, and that she was not afraid of the 999th, which made Jen very surprised, because in his opinion, she couldn't remember this. And Qin-Ming took the cage, released the bird, and went to the roof to use it as a lightning rod, remembering Zen's idea. She also remembered the words of the Master, who told her that Jen could use lightning uncontrollably at any moment and harm her, which she was not afraid of. And even the scars didn't teach her anything in the end. She remained as strong and brave and told the Master that she could handle it. She is sure of this because she has already dealt with heavenly disasters and knows how to help her brother cope with his problem once again. The Master thought they were very funny because the brother wants to protect his sister and the sister wants to protect her brother. He really liked their mutual care and made him laugh. The Master also told Qin-Ming not to look at the fact that her brother was constantly showing off, and that in fact he felt helpless due to the fact that he was captured by the heavenly disaster. The Master told her that one day a heavenly disaster might completely deplete him, and then he would definitely need her help, since without her he would not be able to survive. And when the next heavenly disaster came, she threw a cage from the roof to the right place, which ultimately saved Zen. She thought that she had failed and that he would not wake up, but he was glad that she was alive after it was all over. And all this is due to the fact that they have already experienced this many times. She told him that she could cope with the heavenly disaster herself without anyone's help. Meanwhile, the brothers both woke up and were glad that they survived, no matter what they were in a lot of pain. Later, Qin-Ming came up to them and handed them the bag that they dropped and said that she put half of the cookies for them. In response, they forgave her and Jen and said that she could finish the cookies and take the bag with all its contents for herself. They said that they had notified them and were about to leave. After everything that happened, Zen suggested that Qin-Ming go together to the Five Sword sect, since the spells no longer work anyway, and therefore they can already take part in the meeting and perhaps find a new shelter. For the first time in so many years, he became truly ready to finally look at the outside world. What it looks like, what is there in general, he became very interested in visiting the outside world. And the next day, they left their place where they had lived for many years and went on a journey, having agreed in advance to be on the alert, since at any moment everything could happen again in any place. When leaving the clan, they left notes at the entrance, saying that the protective dome was destroyed by lightning. Everything was fine with them in the end, and they coped with everything. They also asked not to worry about them, and indicated that they had gone to the Temple of the Five Swords together. After they left the clan, some more adult brothers and sisters approached him. They saw sparkling purple lightning in the distance, and it sparkles only where people want to become immortal. The brother told his sister that there are many practicing hermits in the world, hiding from the world. But after reading the notes, my sister didn't really believe that everything was all right with those who had left. She did not believe that Jen was on the path of virtue and there was no need to worry, too. The brother, after reading the notes, said in response that their temple of serenity in the Shu Mountains was also invited to a meeting in the Five Swords sect, and if they were lucky enough to meet Zhen and Qin Ming, they could ask for some advice. Along the way, Jen and Qin Ming chatted about their destination. The sister told her brother that at this meeting they would need to demonstrate something from their sect, to which the brother replied that in his opinion, only a few types of medicinal herbs would be enough. Cetra liked this idea, and they continued walking in silence. But their silence was interrupted by several flying people seeing them. Zhen wanted to run away as quickly as possible to hide from them, since the master said that such people are usually evil. The master also said that such people often rob and kill honest people, and that they are capable of anything. Cetra found his words plausible and convincing, and she even wondered if the master himself was like that. Zen thought that those people are very strong. They know how to fly, and that if they want to cause harm, there is no way to defend themselves without a protective dome. In his opinion, they could be crushed like little insects. But as expected, those flying people were able to find them and fly right towards them. They asked if they were the same disciple from the temple on the mountain where they found the notes. Having assessed the situation and collected a dossier about them, Jen realized that these were two masters of the Golden Pill and decided to ask them why they were asking this. In response, the man introduced himself as the senior disciple of the serene Mount Shu Temple, Xiangjiang, and he introduced his sister as his sister. In the sect, he said that he was just about to pay a visit, but Jen and Qin Ming left. In response, they introduced themselves to the senior disciple as Xiao Ming and his sister Xia Hong, and that they were just wandering monks passing by. But Zhang did not believe that such strong wandering monks could exist in such a place. He suspected lies in Jen's words. Zhang also added that he wanted to discuss something with the mentor of the Taong Temple, and since Jen and Chining are not from there, they are leaving. Jen thought about his words. He thought that the mentor was in danger of trouble, and this Zhang clearly wanted to hit him, and that even though he had defeated the heavenly disaster, he could not win in cultivation if they attacked. But Zhang and his sister changed their minds about leaving and letting Zhen and his sister go Zheong, and his sister didn't know what to do, because Zhen and his sister's abilities were clearly superior to theirs, even though their level was low. And in their opinion, if they really are from the Taichung Temple, then they clearly know something, and that the girl could be the daughter of the immortal master who ascended yesterday. Jen watched Zhang with his sister, and in response to Qin Ming's question why they were standing there doing nothing, he replied that perhaps they were communicating telepathically at that moment, and he was right, because that's how it all happened. And here the situation becomes more interesting because Zheong decided to give Zhen the 5-element spiritual pill of their Serenity Temple, which is an excellent remedy for practitioners of chai tempering. Jen happily accepted the gift, since although it was a drop in the ocean to his 521 units of chai, it was still a worthwhile thing. Next, Zhang suggested that they become friends once they met, because the world is so big between heaven and earth, and you need to be friends with someone in this world so that living in it will not be boring. But Jen refused their offer and moved on with his sister. And Zhang turned to his sister and said, in response to her words about the girl's arrogance, that if she had a father who ascended with the help of a heavenly disaster, then she would be the same, and that they are just helping those who are not in need. and they flew further to the Five-Element sect with the hope of meeting the same two children there and asking them to teach them something. And after some time, Zen and his sister arrived at the Five Swords sect on a cart, and he was surprised that this sect was in such a cold place. He was also surprised that the sect could be located outside the city, but the driver of the horse-drawn cart told them that to reach the Five Swords sect, they need to get to Lotus Peak, and that there are ordinary people living in the city who go to the monks for advice. He showed them the path along the chains and said that he could only take them to this place. Zen asked the driver if he could pay with medicinal herbs, to which the driver got very angry and hit Zen. Although he was not young, he hit quite hard. The sister asked her brother if he was sure that they really needed to cross this bridge, to which Jen answered her that if they have such a bridge, then most likely this sect is very famous. He also added that they are not afraid of difficulties and they are worth going through. Although my sister grew up in the mountains, she is very afraid of heights, and while he carried her across this bridge, she sat on his shoulders with her eyes closed, even though he was walking across the bridge carrying her. For some reason, it was his sister who was tired, not him. He wondered if there was something wrong with this bridge, but after the transition, he saw that after a few minutes, his sister's characteristics rose by 1 unit. And he also noticed that even though after the purple lightning, his level had not changed at all. Thanks to this bridge, he could now make a breakthrough. He never thought that this bridge could strengthen him so much. After crossing at some point, he thought that maybe it was worth going back and forth a few more times, but they suddenly discovered that the bridge had completely disappeared, and they had no way back and continued to walk on. And sometime later, they saw that they had finally reached the Five Sword sect as planned. They were convinced that the driver of the cart had not deceived them, and after crossing the bridge and walking some more distance, they finally arrived. Meanwhile, in the Five Sword sect leader, Bison Genin, said that someone had walked across the bridge, but the head of Lotus Peak, C.I. Genin, did not believe him, because he installed it yesterday and the magic barrier should open only 5 years later. The head of the Blue Lotus Peak, Jiu Dren, added to them that this was possible because the effect of the barrier could have weakened most likely due to the people attending the meeting who gradually destroyed it. After this, Basin said that despite all this, only people with a strong spirit can cross the hardening bridge. After all, the higher the level, the more difficult it is to withstand the hardships during the transition, and even he can't do it. Hearing this, the head of the peak of the heavenly path was surprised by this and asked that how could a person's strength be higher than that of Basin. But at that moment, Xen walked up to the door and knocked, asking for a visit. When he saw them, Bon said that they were his friends from Taung Temple and that he wanted to greet them. He said that when he first came to the Five Sword sect, he and his brothers were sent to different sects to study, and that he had to go specifically to the Taijiang Temple, where he met the master, Tanong Dren. He also added that it was 400 years ago and that they considered each other brothers. And he also said that they were probably the ones who crossed the bridge. Jen said that they really want to eat, and that even though his sister has already eaten the 5-element pill, and now she doesn't need to eat yet, but unlike her, he still really wants to eat. He also addressed all the GFS and said that although his level was too low to participate in the meeting, he came here with just one request to Basin. The leaders were very surprised by what was said and realized that he could possibly read their thoughts and knew about telepathy despite the hardening stage. Zen further continued that his mentor meditated in solitude for 10 days and that their temple repeatedly suffered from heavenly disasters, and during one of them, it was destroyed by purple lightning. Then the mentor went on a journey and they were left homeless and had nowhere to go. He didn't know if he could summon lightning while in the Five Sword sect, since the spell no longer worked, but he still asked for help. The heads made sure, after checking the information, that all this was true and began to wait for Boy Sun's decision at the same time Jen, although he invented half of it, saw his thoughts that no one understood this. As a result, Bass said that he understood their problem and that until Brother Tanong returned from his journey, they could temporarily live in the Five Swords sect. The brother and sister thanked them for their location and were ellied out to show them their place. On the way to the location, Exen thought that they didn't have to worry about lightning for now, and that at least they would have food and drink to live with. After they left for the location, Basin thought that he needed to somehow come up with something to lure Qinming into their sect, since he really liked her. A home was prepared for them, next to which guests from other sects who arrived at the meeting lived, and they were told that they could rest peacefully. Jen was very happy that he ended up in such a rich sect with such good rooms. But they were given only one room, and Jen thought that while his sister was still little, they could sleep together. But in a couple of years, it would no longer be decent. After going to bed, my sister asked me to tell her a story. The next day, they decided to take a walk around the sect, and Jen was very pleasantly surprised to see a large garden located in the sect. Then he found a pond with fish, and he decided to catch them in order to eat them. After all, he was hungry, and no one had fed him since they joined the sect. Although he did not have a fishing rod for this, he decided to catch the fish with his hands, the heads of. The sect, who saw what was happening clearly, did not like these manners, but despite this, Bas told them not to pay attention to other people's shortcomings and go about their business. Approaching Qinming, Luren Jenin told her that he would be happy to help if they needed anything, and called her sister, to which she immediately said that she was not his sister. The mentor at that moment became convinced that she was endowed with a special gift. He also apologized to Zen for the rudeness, ridicule, insults, and everything else since they joined the sect. He also told Jen that his sister has talent, and he knows how to make golden pills and could help her with a breakthrough. Although he said that it was not dangerous, Zen saw in his thoughts internal alchemy, which could mean taking away the strength of other cultivators, thus increasing his level. And then Den thought that although the sect is respected, this Lurendrin most likely wants to feed on the power of Qingming, and therefore should not be trusted. The sister also did not want to accept his help, and they agreed and refused Luren Jenin. But Luren was not going to stop there, and reminded that Qingming was at the basic level, and the spiritual qi of the golden pill would be beneficial. Luren thought that he must definitely get it, and that Jen would not interfere with this in any way. Others then considered Jen and Qingming idiots, refusing the golden pill that they so needed at this moment. Despite all the persuasion of Luzon and the statements of his brothers, Xen once again refused help, which surprised Luzon very much. He never expected a refusal, and decided to teach this rabble, in his opinion, a lesson at the hardened level. And Luren activated Frosty Chi towards Jen, after which he would at least get sick, and at the most, he would never be able to make a breakthrough again, asking for mercy. But there was no reaction to the infusion of spiritual qi. She simply poured into the sea of qi and disappeared without a trace, which surprised Luzon very much. Luren also noticed that the spiritual qi from Jen's hand entered directly into Lauren's body, but it couldn't be like this for long, because if Zen doesn't remove his hand in time, something very unpleasant will happen. But Luren himself tore away Jen's hand in time. When he saw the attack of his golden pill, he was furious with all these events that were happening, which clearly did not go according to his plan. Next, one of the heads, namely Zhao, turned to Luren and asked if this was how his mentor taught him to receive guests, to which Luan had nothing to answer and had no choice but to ask for forgiveness for this whole situation. But Zhao continued and told Luren that he was dishonoring the honor of their sect by disrespecting the guests and was going to report to the head. Seeing all this, Zen thought that Jiu, in his opinion, is very much respected in this sect, and he approached him and thanked him for reprimanding Luren, to which Zhao said that there was no need for gratitude and that he couldn't stand Luren. He further added that he had no doubt about Zhang and Qingming because they were honorable guests of the head of the sect, and he invited them to stay with him at the peak of the Blue Lotus. Jen really liked this proposal because, in his opinion, it would be possible to have a snack there, despite the fact that the head wants to win the girl over to his side. And after that, they went to visit Gaju at the peak of the Blue Lotus, and there they were greeted as expected by a great variety of different food and wine. Judu allowed us to start eating immediately, and Jen happily began. At the table, Jen asked Zhao what kind of world of Kiel he was talking about, to which Gaju replied that it was one of their sect's treasures, which was the main object of the meeting. Gaju further asked if Jen knew about the Void World. Jen told him that his mentor had mentioned this and told him that it could open various spaces and that it could be carried with you as storage. In response, Jiu corrected him that he was now talking about the tame world of emptiness. And the precious world of clarity, as Zhao said, is also a world of emptiness, but it cannot be carried away. It has a very large entrance, and it took a lot of effort for the founder of the sect to discover this world, and that there are many amazing things in it. Jen asked, knowing that this world would be the main focus of the sect's meeting. Was there really treasure hidden inside this world? To which Jedu replied that there really were treasures there, but they did not belong to the Five Swords sect. He also added that at every meeting their sect takes out the key and hides it in the precious WW of clarity, after which the large sects send their disciples inside who are at the level of the golden pill. He further said that inside the precious world of clarity, the disciples of the sects fight with each other in the struggle for treasures. But in order to find the treasures, you first need to find the key, which is what they do. Zen was very surprised by this because they could die there, to which Zhao replied that the precious world of clarity is a rather dangerous place, but everyone entering it follows the rules established by the Five Swords sect, and that being at the level of the golden pill, it is difficult for a student to kill each other because everyone's strength is equal, and if someone is wounded, then this person is evacuated. In addition, there are restrictions on the number of participants, and the weakest sects can send one person and the strongest 5 people will remain. After this, Jen said that if one can obtain treasures from the precious world of clarity, it will be much better than a 100 years of cultivation. But Judu upset him, saying that he shouldn't think about it, and argued for it. He said that when entering the world of clarity, there are 2 restrictive conditions, the first of which allows only students at the level of the golden pill to enter, and the second states the need to have a gift artifact with you. Therefore, entry is closed to them. Meanwhile, Luren was angry at Jen for letting spiritual power into the golden pill, and now his body was eating itself from the inside because of this, and he couldn't fight it. At the moment of his severe pain, his brother came to him. Luren told him to leave and not disturb his meditation. At this moment, he has no choice but to support the golden pill. Next, he ate the pill and was glad that his spiritual chi from eating the pill slowed down the process. But he suddenly realized that the second-class pill had become a third-class pill, which was unable to completely stop the process. This made him even angrier, realizing that some young sucker at the hardening level had been able to harm him so much, and that at the same time, Jiu had additionally disgraced him in front of everyone, and that he would also report everything to the head. During his anger, some plan came into his head. If implemented in his opinion, everyone except him should die. Then came the next day, which was the winter solstice, and which was also the official day of the meeting. The head of the Serenity Temple, Benla Zenrin, the head of the Flowing Water Sect, Jungan Jenin, and the head of the Spring Night Fox Temple Jenin arrived at the entrance to the precious world of clarity in turn. But the head of Basin was in no hurry to announce the beginning, and it seemed like all the famous sects had already arrived. But Basin suddenly announced that someone else had arrived, and this respected man was the head of the Taichung Temple, Shen Jinming. After his arrival, Basin announced that all participants who brought gift artifacts with them would have to enter the precious world of clarity one by one, if the artifact was genuine, and if the one entering was a gold pill level master. He reminded that in this world they can take any artifact, but first they need to find the key after all. Only then will it be possible to leave the world taking with you all the treasures found. After these words, he opened a portal to enter the precious world of clarity and invited those who could do so to the entrance. The head of the Serenity Temple, Zhang, went there first along with Chikia Gi binding and Sao providing the white dew nectar as a spiritual artifact, which was a first-class artifact watching what was happening. Jen told his sister that someday they would also definitely go there after they found some kind of gift artifact. But for now, Qing Ming looked at all this as a boring spectacle. The master of the Temple of Serenity said in response to Zen that in his opinion he was an idiot from a small sect who didn't even bring an artifact, and at the same time allows himself to make such speeches. To which Zen replied that he was also not allowed to enter the master. Answered Jen that sooner or later he would have a chance to get into the precious world of clarity, but Jen apparently would never be able to do this. Zen did not like the master's words and decided to enter the precious world of clarity without permission or invitations. Absolutely everyone present was surprised by this because he did not provide an artifact of the gift and is only at the level of chai hardening. Following him, Qingming also jumped into the portal, which surprised everyone even more because they had not reached the level of the golden pill. But despite this, they decided to not care about all the rules and restrictions and enter the precious world of clarity. Gaju told B that Jen could die in the world of clarity, and he needed to be evacuated from there urgently, to which Boone replied that there was no way for him to save them, because if they had entered the world of clarity, then all they could do was act according to the rules. He also added that they should be happy that at least they would be able to get them out if they were injured. Although Qingming entered after Jen, it looks like the precious world of clarity is trying to push her back out with the help of fog and whatnot. Zen told his sister that he was nearby and offered to carry her further on his back because this fog had no effect on him, and his sister's chi level increased by 100, which is many times more than after 10 years of meditation. She agreed to his proposal, and he carried her. Suddenly, at some point, Qingming noticed that in this world of emptiness, time flows very strangely, and she does not understand how much has already passed since they entered it. She began to ask if he wanted to eat after so much time, and how he was holding up at all, to which he replied that there was no need to worry, because spiritual qi nourished him instead of food, and his spirit was gradually becoming stronger. At some point, Qingming noticed the complete disappearance of the fog, which pleased both of them, and they continued walking without stopping. But suddenly they found themselves already in flight, after which they landed on another mountain. As it turned out, they simply jumped from one mountain to another without expecting anything like this. It didn't take long before they were attacked and had to run away from the landing site, and having run some distance, they stopped to rest. At this moment, the disciples of the Temple of Serenity approached them and were surprised to see Zen with Qingming in front of them. They decided to ask how Zen and his sister were able to come in, to which Zen said that his and his sister's names suddenly appeared on the stone at the entrance to the precious world of clarity, and for some reason they were drawn inside. He also said that they do not have any artifacts and therefore should not attack them. In response, the disciple of the Temple of Serenity said that they would not do this. Meanwhile, he wondered how these two managed to remain without a single scratch after falling from a great height and being attacked. They telepathically communicated with each other that something was clearly wrong here, and these two clearly had a protective artifact or some other trick that they knew absolutely nothing about. Jen decided to interrupt them and ask why they rushed so quickly. He also asked if they saw the man in black clothes who attacked them, to which one of the students of the Temple of Serenity replied that they were chasing that person, and that is why they ended up next to them, and it was a miracle that they met them. They also said that this time, the precious world of clarity is somehow strange. And based on this, it seems to them that this has something to do with that mysterious man. After that, they offered to go further with him, since the place where they were was unsafe. Jen, surprised by such sudden concern, told Luzon that he had never expected anything like this from him, thinking at the same time that he is bad at pretending. To which Luren replied that since Jen and Qingming are guests of the Five Swords sect, he must protect them. After this, Zen said that he was told about this event as if there was a real war going on here, and that there could be no worries or worries here, but the students of the Temple of Serenity calmed him down, reminding him of the evacuation. But Luren corrected them that this time something clearly went wrong, and he noticed that this time someone still died, despite the information about a possible evacuation. Everyone was surprised by this, and one of the students said that this was not the first time that the precious world of clarity had been discovered, but no one had died before Luren, meanwhile, still believed that Zhang was with them, who would call everyone back in case of danger. He also added that in the world of clarity, someone secretly changed the magical system that established the rules, and all that remains is to believe in the best. He also discovered attacks in turns of all participants divided into 5 people. After listening to them all, Zen told them that since they were at the golden pill level, they had nothing to worry about and wished them luck and decided to get away from them as soon as possible. But one of the students tried to stop them verbally and said that that person was hiding somewhere now, and if they went together, they would be in danger, and did not miss the chance to once again call them to go further together. Zen thanked them for their concern, but said that they did not like to hang out with strangers, and in his mind, he thought that at first they had coveted their artifact, and now Qingming, whom they really liked. In the end, the two of them managed to move on. Qingming asked her brother whether it would be easier to look for the keys in a large group, to which Zen told her that there was no need to worry, since he refused to go with Luren not only because of her. According to him and his opinion, the fact is that for these masters of the golden pill, the most important thing is to find out the best and take away the artifact from him. Therefore, it is beneficial for them to continue the game without wasting time looking for the key. Moreover, considering the essence that Jen poured into Len's veins, last time it seems to him that it is still in him. After all, he behaved quite strangely this time, and therefore it was better for them to stay away from him. Zen decided that let the masters of the golden pill interfere with each other, and in the meantime, they would calmly continue searching for the key. Meanwhile, many teams found something interesting and began to discuss what they found so interesting. After all, they know that the spiritual chi is completely different, and it is more like the eye of the building, and they decided to destroy what they saw. But Zhang told everyone to be patient, because he decided to test everything on himself first. After all, destroying some kind of system is a piece of cake for him, and the faster they deal with this, the faster they can continue the meeting. But they didn't listen to him and went to destroy the system altogether. But it turned out that the formation was guarded by some kind of animal, and the skin of this creature was impenetrable. Even magic doesn't hurt him, and they don't know what to do with him. Next, they decided to find his weak point and hit him altogether, but the beast, meanwhile, became more and more angry every minute. At some point, Chia found the weak point of the beast and killed it, which the others really liked, because many could have died from the anger of this beast. After killing the beast, it became possible to continue the destruction of the system. And as soon as Zhang decided to check, after the destruction of the formation, how things were with the other formations, something unexpected happened to everyone. So the fact is that the destroyed system turned out to be a trap, and when it was destroyed, the magic of destroying the spirit was released, since Zhang is at the highest level that magic does not affect him yet. And therefore he decides to leave faster and further. And suddenly looking at Luren, Zhang wondered why the magic had no effect on him at all. But at that moment, Luren decided to kill Zhang. Zhang did not understand why the situation turned so much in the other direction. Meanwhile, Zhen and Qingming said and did not suspect anything. Qingming asked her brother how they would find the key in such a big world, to which Zhen replied that he had a clue with which he hoped to do this. He reminded her of the chi essence in Lauren's body, which was hidden in the world of clarity. Next, we are again transported to the fight between Zhang and Luren Shang. Realized that Luren had set this trap, but it was already too late. Luren destroyed Zhang with the words that no artifact could resist him, even the first grade. Zhang noticed that there was something wrong with Lauren's spiritual chi, and that he was using black magic, and said so out loud. Luren agreed with him on this, said that he was thinking correctly, and that no one could win, even with his double, and no one paid attention to him at all because of his mediocre abilities. He also added that his brothers in the sect did whatever they wanted with him. But in the meantime, he could not answer them. But one day he was lucky, and on the advice of one person, he managed to move to the level of the golden pill. And that after this, the attitude towards him immediately changed to the point of being unrecognizable. The master began to pay attention to him, and his sect brothers began to respect him, and even Xiang was once glad to meet him. But he doesn't care what kind of magic it is, because the strongest always wins. And as soon as he became strong, he realized that he could get absolutely everything he wanted. But the most disgusting, in his opinion, is Jen, whom he wants to take revenge on. And suddenly, at that moment, while Luren was delivering his speech to Zhang, Jen came to him and told him that although Lauren's clone was able to deceive the masters of the golden pill level, he would not deceive him, and reminded him of his chi flowing in his veins. Seeing Zhen, Luzhen became even more furious, and said that the master gave him the golden pill so that he could use it during the breakthrough, but because of Jen it was wasted, and after his words, he tried to attack Zhen, but he had little success with it, no matter how hard he tried further. Jen added that magical structure in the world of clarity, or the creation of a double such power, is beyond the power of Luzhen, and that means someone else is standing behind him. To which Luren replied that even the technique of the Five Sword Sect would be enough for him to kill him. And after these words, he used the reproduction technique and continued to attack further. Zhen replied to Luren that he was too slow and used his technique. He had been training his speed since childhood, chasing pigs and hunting birds, and also told Luzhen that he could only dream of his skill. Zhen was also very surprised that being a student of the Five Swords Sect, Luren did not use any weapons in battle, although the sect probably had them in their arsenal. At some point during the battle, Zhen used a frosty cloud thread, which turned out to be an artifact of the Taong Temple, which few knew about. Luren was not really surprised by this, but after that, Zhen used the heart of lightning and destroyed Luren with lightning at the same time he himself did not even understand when he managed to master this technique. But he succeeded in everything as he had planned. Qing Ming asked if the plan was to injure and ask about the location of the key, to which Zhen replied that he did not expect that the technique would be so strong and that it would incinerate Luren Shi. Tried to calm him down and said that this happened because of Len's weakness, to which Zhen replied that since he was gone now, we needed to look for the key now, starting from the very beginning, since there was no way for anyone to find out. But this will no longer have to be done, since Qing Ming has already found the key among the ashes and told Zhen about it. Meanwhile, all those who fought with Lucin's double thought that they could not win seeing his superiority and strength, suddenly noticed Len's sudden disappearance. None of them realized that it was a double and something. Very strange was happening outside too. The spiritual qi at the entrance to the precious world of clarity became weaker and weaker every moment, and none of those present knew or saw what was inside. Everyone saw that the disciples at the chai tempering level were sucked in, and all the disciples at the golden pill level were also inside. At that moment, the leaders were very worried that someone might die, and that something was clearly wrong. Jiu also added that there was no point for everyone to go in there. But now, suddenly everyone became scared when they broke the rules and broke everything. But others, calmer ones, began to calm him down and say that Bas should decide for himself what to do. One of the chapters said that the void world could only be activated from within, and that they would either have to wait 10 days or hope that one of the members would find the key. But what is going on in the precious world is not clear. Another chapter added that they cannot wait, and that they need to figure out how to activate it. Opinions differed radically, but no one clearly expected that at that moment a precious world of clarity would open up in their own opinion at that moment. And all the students began to leave from there, and the first, of course, was Zhen, along with Qing Ming, who had found the key. The master of the Serenity clan began to ask Zhen about his student Luzin because he was not visible among those who came out, to which Zhen replied that this is a very long story, and that if Qing Ming had not found the key, they would not have gotten out of there. He asked for a break, despite requests to quickly tell everything without making anyone wait. Basin asked Qing Ming in surprise how she was able to cross the spirit-hardening bridge, and was also able to find the key, to which she replied that she was just lucky with the key, but if it weren't for her brother, she would not have crossed the bridge and would not have found it key. After all, she walked across the bridge only a few steps, and then Zhen carried her on his back. One of the masters asked the students if Qing Ming really found the key, to which the student responded positively, and that she had a rare gift, and it was immediately clear that this was talent, after which the master decided to lure the girl to their temple of serenity. But the student hastened to convince him not to do this. He decided to warn the master that when they were inside, he saw purple lightning, which was exactly the same as that very day on Mount Sang. He further added that Taong, who ascended from the temple, definitely protects these two, and that if they force the girl to join their sect, they will become enemies of the ascended master. After the student words, the master changed his mind about transferring the girl to himself and answered the student that he was speaking correctly, and that he and this girl were clearly not on the same path. Next, we see how the heads and disciples of all sects went to Qing Ming to express their gratitude for saving lives and for opening the gates of the precious world of clarity with the help of the key she found. In response to expressions of gratitude, Zhen told them that there was no need to stand on ceremony, and that if they had valuable artifacts and medicinal herbs, they could give them as a thank you. But other than words, they gave nothing. Jen, seeing the thoughts of everyone present, realized that they were all deceivers, and all their words of gratitude were false. They just want to drag Qing Ming into their own sect, which of course he clearly didn't like. After all this, Jen ordered Qing Ming to pack her things, and said that they could no longer stay in this place since the Five Sword Sect would question Luren, and he could not tell them the truth. Sometime after collecting their things, they still managed to leave the sect. On the way, Xen told his sister that they would definitely catch a cart and go straight to Mount Kangqing Ming, liked the idea, and went to look for a cart. Bass, of course, found out about their departure, and before they had time to go far, he immediately caught up with them and said that there was no better place for meditation than a small temple far from the bustling world, surrounded by beautiful nature. He further added that he really wanted them to stay, but if they needed to leave, he would not detain them. But before that, he passed on the divination technique to Qing Ming while talking. He also said that the magic would only last 3 days, so she needed to make every effort to learn this technique, and that everything now depended on her. He also provided them with transport, in which they could go anywhere, and said that if they wanted to leave, they needed to hurry up before anyone found out about it. They, of course, chose the option of leaving as quickly as possible. And before leaving, Basin also told them that he foresaw that in May of next year, their master would appear at the foot of Mount Sang in Shaxian County. Zen thanked him for the information, and they rushed off as quickly as possible. But Basin did not tell them that next year a mountain monastery of the Celestials would appear in Shakan County, and it was unlikely that their master would go to them. To which Basin said that if they were able to get out of the precious world of clarity, then someone is clearly protecting them, and he thinks that this is their master in his new incarnation. Arriving in Sha County Sin, and Qing Ming noticed that the county had become very busy. The time had already come when their master was supposed to return, and they were waiting for him at the indicated place. To his sisters' incredulous questions, Xen replied that Basun is an unsurpassed master of predictions, and he cannot make a mistake. He thinks that they will meet him very soon. Xen offered his sister something to eat when his sister asked if they had money. He replied that after selling the carts, they still had some extra money, so there was no need to worry about it, and they went to the nearest noodle shop. They sat down at a free table, and Jen ordered 2 large portions of noodles for the 2 of them, and they began to wait for the ordered dish to be prepared and served. While they were waiting, Zen managed to see the owner of the noodle shop with a cultivator sign, and was very surprised by this, despite the fact that the owner's performance was low. The owner of the noodle shop was not very happy with such guests, and was in no hurry to prepare and serve the dish. To them, Zen came up and asked if the owner of the noodle shop didn't want to make money without serving customers. After Jen's question, the owner finally decided to serve them and gave them a portion of noodles, but Qing Ming did not want to eat this disgusting food, even if she died of hunger. And then Jen decided to remember something strange. He remembered that the cake seller is a disciple of the Serenity Temple, and the beggar is a disciple of the Five Sword Sect, and this unlucky cook is a student of the monastery of the Cloudy Slope. When asked by his sister how he knew all this, he replied that it was not important, and that he needed to find out what they were all doing in Sha County. Moreover, the master may return soon, and therefore this place should be safe. And at that moment, Jen saw an exchange of thoughts, and one of these thoughts was one that talked about whether to warn his friends from Taong Temple. The response thought was that Jen and Qing Ming were under the protection of Tanong Renen, and that accordingly everything would be fine with them. There was also the idea that the abode of a celestial being would appear in this place, but Sha County had already become a dangerous place, and that safety had to be taken care of. These were the thoughts of Chizi, and her brother, he understood, from the exchange of thoughts that Chish cared about Qingming very much, but he could not understand what kind of abode of the celestial being he was talking about. Chia couldn't calm down because the protective curse of the Ta Chong temple was no longer there, and if something happened, then in her opinion, the head of the qi quenching level would not be able to take care of Qingming's safety and would be very sad. Someone unknown also saw the exchange of thoughts and asked Qi what kind of monastery this was, to which Chia replied that this is the place where a person who ascended to heaven stops and where many precious artifacts are kept. Chisa was surprised that this unknown person didn't even know about the mountain monastery of the celestial being and even thought about the possibility of checking it out, and this unknown person turned out to be Jen. After he mentally communicated with Chisi, he understood why so many scoundrels had gathered in Sha County, but Qingming didn't understand what Jen was thinking about and asked him what he was thinking about, to which he replied that many are saying that a mountain monastery of a celestial will appear in Sha County, and they need to find a master as soon as possible. She asked if her father was safe, to which he replied that heaven was on his side and everything would definitely be okay with him. Hearing this, Qingming said then, in that case, they will not look for him. Zhen, surprised, said that this was her father, to which Qingming said that it is now very dangerous in Sha County, just like at the meeting in the Five Swords sect. She was worried about her brother and didn't want him to get hurt, but he told her that she shouldn't worry, because they were unlikely to meet someone like Lurin, for example, to which Qingming said that there were already a lot of people in the county, and she didn't know how to find him. Zhen reassured her and said that it would be really difficult for the two of them to do this, but he had a plan to make the search easier. And so we are again transported to Chisa, who discovered her brother, who unexpectedly returned to her. He wanted to find out information and met people from whom he learned something interesting. He came with people who were attacked outside the city by Jitian Mogon, and as a result of this meeting, several people were seriously injured. Chisa was very surprised to hear about Jian Mong, who was the head of the Dark Path. He continued the story by saying that the master had taken command of the Temple of Serenity, but the Five Swords sect had not yet arrived, and the most important thing now was to unite to resist the Dark Path, so that together they would not be allowed into the persecuted monastery. And then their conversation was interrupted by Jen, who approached Chisi with her brother, without her sister saying that she did not like to be among people and was waiting for him outside. He told them that he had business with Zhang Zhenren, and then he laughed, reading the thoughts that said that Zhang Zhenin was friends with him only out of politeness and hoped that he would not join them. Next, he asked for help from the Temple of Serenity because he wants to find out where his master is now, to which Zhang responded by saying that he was just about to contact all the sects in order to stand together in defense against the Dark Path, and if they discover him, they will definitely inform him about it. Jen thanked Zhang for his answer and left. Chisa immediately understood who was exchanging thoughts with her, and some of the people already wanted to quickly go to the tea house and find these bandits. It turned out that some guards considered Zhang Shen, and all those present to be bandits. Zhang wanted to settle this misunderstanding loyal and asked to bring the boss to them. But the chief who ordered them to be captured was already on the spot and talking to them. Zhang realized that he was talking to the head of the county and apologized for not recognizing him. He said that they were simply engaged in trade and that they were not bandits. But the fact is that he received information through an informant that they had arrived in Sha County to prepare a plot, to which Zhang replied that they were all disciples of sects and had not arrived at all to create problems. He also said that if they could make concessions to them, then he had a youth pill and he could give it to them as a sign of respect. The head of the county really liked this option, and he didn't even mind getting it. And at that moment, Shania came out from behind the curtains and surprised that Zhang immediately resorted to such a trick thought that it was somehow even boring, and she also said that she was not impressed by the Temple of Serenity. Zhang asked her what sect she was from and from what region, to which she replied that she did not belong to any sect and that she was absolutely free. But in her opinion, both people and celestial beings are all the same and boring. Meanwhile, Zen thought that this girl from the Heavenly Slope Temple was clearly here for a reason, and accordingly, he needed to quickly find Qing Ming and take her to a safe place. Jen's attempt to escape was immediately noticed and stopped. Shanna even said that she seemed to be a disciple of the sect, but at the same time, she had no abilities at all, and besides, she also showed herself to be a coward. And at that moment, a stone of heaven and earth flew towards Shania, which seemed like some kind of stupid crap to her, and Jen sent it in response to her statements. And then she realized that at a basic level, only a master could have such power, but her master came out to intercede for her, who can kill anyone who gets in his way, and began to attack Zen. And at that moment, Jiyu appeared and told that Master that at the spiritual transformation level, fighting a bass-level enemy was a shame. Master Shania turned out to be the same JY and Mong, who thought that Jiyu had been drinking himself for a long time and never expected to see him here, and since she saw him, she also called all the other heads of the Spades to come out to kill. She wanted to kill them all together, but Jadu told her that he could handle her himself and that he did not need helpers in this, and they began to fight. Chia wanted to help him, but Xiang stopped her and said that if they approached, everyone would be in danger. After all, it is at the level of spiritual transformation, and therefore you cannot interfere there. In addition, she is the elder of the Cloud Slope Temple, and she is here for a reason, so they must guard the mountain abode from the dark path, and they cannot enter into battle lightly, and, at that moment, everyone saw the appearance of the heavenly abode, which everyone had been waiting for so long until this moment. And Jianmong told Zhao that if they continue to fight the mountain, monastery would already be empty, to which Zhu answered her that he did not need the treasures of the mountain monastery, and told her not to hope for an end to the battle. But while they were fighting, many had already managed to go to the monastery, including the disciples of the Dark Path. And while almost everyone went to the monastery and Zhu and Jian were fighting the disciple, Mo Xin was looking for something walking around the county. And Jen and Qing Ming watched her. They became suspicious why she did not help in the battle and was not in a hurry to the monastery. She first provoked the county head, and then her transformation level master intervened. It occurred to Zen at that moment that perhaps everyone had gone down the wrong road and that the real mountain abode of the celestial being was in the tea house, and he decided to go there and see what was happening there, what she was looking for. He thought that the entrance to the mountain monastery could appear and immediately disappear without a trace. He assumed that the AR path knew from the very beginning that the entrance was in the tea house, but they did not expect that Zhang would gather everyone in this place. And perhaps that's why Shanua persuaded the head of the county to catch everyone. After all, if an ordinary person intervenes, then the cultivators will not have any suspicions. That's why the Dark Path decided to take the chance. But they all ran up and saw that the Dark Ones were already dying in the monastery, and they went on the attack. Zhang told Chessie to lead him inside while he dealt with the Dark Path people. But Shisa suddenly realized that something was wrong here and told all the other Light Ones to stop and understand what was happening. She realized that this was some kind of trap from which it would be very difficult to escape. Having searched everything, Ixen and his sister went down to the basement and found a stone gate there, through which it is impossible to break through with the help of physical force, because there is a curse there that allows only people with protective artifacts to pass through. And this spell is quite powerful, which in addition to the artifact, also requires a level of spiritual transformation. But despite this, Zen still managed to open the gate, and they entered the monastery. And they saw 3 doorways there, but they did not know which one to go into after all. Only with the help of high skill in prediction can one determine the correct path, and each entrance has its own characteristics and traps. And then Zen told his sister that even though the traps in the mountain monastery were dangerous, they couldn't do anything to such a talented person. Like him, after all, he has reached the highest level of luck, and it's time to finally take advantage of this bonus. And in the end, he chose the central path, hoping on his intuition and on the fact that fate would not let him down in a place unfamiliar to him. And they eventually went to that central path, and they suddenly found a room in which there were many bones and skulls, and Jen said that not everyone who lived in this place eventually managed to become immortal. Then Qing Ming said that most likely this was a monk who came here by mistake and, unable to find a way out, died in the end. But Jen was sure that this would not happen to them. And they eventually came to the door, after which they opened it, and they didn't feel any spiritual power there, and thought that perhaps it was either something wrong again, or that student had passed on somewhere in this place. But after looking around a little, they realized that they were in a funeral hall, and Jen thought that his 9 luck points really helped them, since they found a crystal of a frozen celestial disaster. And Jen told his sister that it looked like they had found the most valuable thing in this mountain abode. But they did not rejoice at this for long, as the same student came in after them, and she warned them that there were traps in this place, and that they would all die if any of them touched the artifact. But Jen saw her mess, and he couldn't be fooled so easily, and she thought that they could get ahead of her. And he told her to stop being cunning, since she had already lost, and she should have given up on good terms, and he decided to touch the crystal no matter what. And they really fell into a trap in which Qing Ming could not use her spiritual power. The student of the dark path was not surprised, because the Celestials' traps primarily limit the use of spiritual power, and they fell from a great height, somewhere into a deep cave. When his sister asked if everything was okay with him, he replied that he was so strong that nothing would happen to him, even after falling from a cliff. But they were interrupted by a student of the dark path. She asked if he was so strong, then why he decided to land with her help, and asked him to get off her. She also added that it looks like he's lucky because the trap stopped working, but it seems that the trap stopped working not because of him. And they noticed the silhouette of a man who looked like Master Zen and Qing Ming's father. And the student of the dark path said that when she opened the mountain monastery, she realized that no one had been here for hundreds of years, and that this person definitely lives here, but what they see is just a residual memory. She further added that although this magic is quite rare, it can be dispelled quite easily, and she began to dispel this memory, and while it was dissipating, Xen and Qing Ming had something to look at. They both became convinced that it was indeed, as they thought Xen's master and Qing Ming's father when he left Qing Ming was very young, and she doesn't remember exactly what he looks like, but now she has this unique chance to see him. And in one of his last memories, he pointed to the Temple of 9 Saints, but none of them understood what this could mean and why he pointed to this temple.